The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. It's March 27th. The international break has concluded. What did we learn? We'll get into that this morning. U.S. men's national team 1-1 draw with Chile last night. Greg Berhalter remains undefeated in his reign on top of the coaching ranks for the U.S. men's national team. We'll talk about how last night looked a little different level of competition from Chile. We'll talk about Miguel Almirón turning into angry Miguel and his red card that was horrendous against Mexico last night. We'll get into that one because that was odd. And we'll get into everything else from the international break. The International Champions Cup will be announcing its schedule in, I think, about 90 minutes. 90 minutes to an hour. We'll get the update on that. See what games are going to be around the Soccer Down Here footprint this summer with international opponents coming to town. That whole thing that Charlie Silitano and Relevant Sports have put together, it started as just a collection of friendlies. It's actually turning into a pretty good branding opportunity for the clubs involved, and now they've expanded into the futures competition for boys and girls, and they have a women's ICC. It turned into something that was just kind of, all right, it's a collection of friendlies under a banner into, I think, an important thing to keep an eye on. I think there's definitely growth potential across the board. We'll get into that too, but we'll also be taking your questions and your thoughts because it's a Wall Pass Wednesday, and that's what we do. John, let's start with you. What did you think about the U.S. men's national team last night, 1-1 with Chile?
I thought that the first 5 minutes were fantastic. Thought minutes 5 through 10 were concerning. Thought minutes 10 through 65 were okay. And 65 to the finish, I'm sitting here saying, okay, you got out of there with a draw against a team that was pretty stacked. So reasons for optimism, but then you look at the injury of Christian Pulisic, and you now have concerns over 40% of your swamp. And
I'd say that's a very big rush to conclusions thing about worried about him for the Gold Cup in 2.5 months. Looked like he pulled his quad a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah,
okay.
I would dial that one back.
All right, so dialed back. But you know me, always 100% negative until proven otherwise. So flashes of, there's flashes there, but once again, you hope that when you get into the Gold Cup friendlies that they can reacquaint themselves with one another and remember how each other operates on the pitch. So fits and starts last night, but I think the fact that they ground out a result against Chile, and is it just me, or I enjoy it when Arturo Vidal just gets right in an official's face and nothing happens.
It's always fun.
Yeah. So, and dig the man's haircut. I could never pull that off, but I look at last night as another step, hopefully, in the learning process of what Greg Berhalter wants. And you can at me all you want, but all I can say about Michael Bradley is solid in the middle. And right now, I think that as you're looking at what's going on with Berhalter, he's still going to be there in 2022.
It's again, I would, as a Michael Bradley defender, at least as I've been labeled, I'd say that's a jump to conclusion because 2022 is a long way off. I think he's there this summer. I think he's there for the Gold Cup. And I think he's there for CONCACAF Nations League. I think he's there for 2019. And at his age and in that position, I think you're assessing, every few months. I mean, he's got to keep performing to keep earning it because Will Trapp is right there as well. And I thought it was really interesting that in the second half when it was obvious that you were not going to dominate possession in this match and you had to adjust. I liked the moves that Berhalter made. I liked the idea of Bradley and Trapp together. It changed the game. It helped them get out of there with a result. And that's a good little piece of knowledge you pick up, that those two can play together in that type of situation. It was a 3-4-3. It was just a very defensive 3-4-3. It looked honestly more like a 5-2-3 or a 5-4-1 when the wingers / inside forwards dropped in. But it's another good way to move things around. I was actually, it's funny listening to you and your thoughts on it. I was more positive coming out of this one than I was about the win over Ecuador, because I don't think the game against Ecuador really told you anything. It told you that you can dominate possession, but you're not creating chances. You created the same number of chances here. One less shot on goal, but you created the same number of shots, 5. You had 34% possession as opposed to 70. So you had half the possession. You created the same number of shots. One less on target. You converted on your shot. On your shot on target. That's a good thing that you're able to do that against the run of play and against a team in Chile that's going to make life more difficult for you than in Ecuador. You have to figure out how to play against both, and that's the challenge, I think, for top CONCACAF teams. Because for Mexico, for the United States, look, you're going to be dominant against Trinidad and Tobago, against even Costa Rica, against Guatemala, against Honduras, against the teams you're going to play in the Gold Cup, against the teams you're going to play in the early stages of the Nations League. You're going to be dominant, and you need to learn how to dominate games. But you're not so dominant that you're going to go into a match with a Chile, with an Argentina, with a Brazil, just in this hemisphere, with top European competition, and be able to play the same way. You have to have another way to play against those teams when you can't dominate possession. That was one of my big questions about Berhalter was, okay, we know what he wants to do against these types of opponents. What is the alternative when you're not dominating possession? I thought we saw some of that last night, and I feel a lot better about it. We saw DeAndre Yedlin play a more traditional right back role. Christian Roldan kind of struggled with reading the game here and what he was being asked to do as the 8. Really got stuck between two minds a lot of times, between going forward and dropping in to help Michael Bradley. That's something that is going to be critical in these types of matches where you don't have much of the possession. Your number 8 has to read the game and be your guy who can switch from, okay, now we have numbers up defensively, now we have numbers up in the attack when we get forward. Roldan, who I like a lot in that role, struggled to read it last night. I thought Tim Ream as a traditional left back in this type of setup, it's an issue. He gets beat for pace too often as a traditional left back in a 4-man back line. That's where maybe you go with a Lovitz to start, because I think Lovitz is a better left back than he is as a left center back, but he can do both better overall than Ream can. Ream's a much better left center back than Lovitz, but he's a much worse left back. So, and then you have other guys to factor in too, but we've seen Lovitz in that left center back role. We haven't really seen anybody else in that role yet. These are the things you're going to have to figure out. These are the reasons why I think the lineups are going to look differently against different types of competition. But it's really good you got this test here. The Gold Cup is a different animal until you get to a Mexico and maybe a Costa Rica too, if they put it back together. But you have to know how to play these types of opponents as well. And I thought you probably learned a little more coming out of this one than you did out of that Ecuador game. And you learned a lot more than you did out of the games in January and early February. Let's hear what Christian Roldan thought about it from after the match.
I thought we were okay at times. We were in our block for moments of the game, and now it's to find the next bit of our game and trying to maintain the ball, maintain their pressure, press at the right times, and establish a little bit of rhythm. But overall, a tie against a quality side, it's a step in the right direction, but we can get better, and I think that's the most important thing.
This is the first time under Greg Berhalter that we've seen the entire group together. What was the camp like with everyone there?
A lot of organization, team bonding, a cultural shift, and I think everybody was bought in. The system, to having meals, having conversations. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can continue in this fashion for the Gold Cup.
I know your coach always talks about progress. Where have you seen that most with this group?
Well, we've played four different sides. Ecuador was a little bit more passive, playing in their block. Chile pressing like crazy, so it's finding that right balance and trying to be able to play against different teams and reading the opponent. But in the end, finding ways to affect the game, and I think we can manipulate the team a little bit more, and hopefully we can show that in Gold Cup.
Not a lot of dress rehearsals left, and you mentioned Gold Cup. How ready do you think this group is for Gold Cup?
Well, it's a transition. We know that, and we only had, I would say, 6 days to really prepare for these 2 games. And Gold Cup will give us a little bit more time to incorporate the system a little bit more, really learn every single movement. And look, we have 2 friendlies before Gold Cup, and that's going to be very vital for the tournament.
So 2 friendlies ahead of the Gold Cup. One of them appears to be Jamaica at Audi Field on June 5th in D.C., then you're into the tournament. Now you're going to get opponents that you should be able to handle in the first round and build, and that's part of the benefit of where you are in CONCACAF right now. You should be able to grow into this tournament a bit, and you can work on those things that Roldan's talking about. Dealing with the pressure from Chile was a whole different animal than the U.S. has seen under Greg Berhalter so far. Good and bad things about it. I think it's why a guy like Michael Bradley and Will Trapp, because I think both can handle it, are vital. Because if you're going to deal with teams that press you, you have to have that player in the middle who is the metronome, who can make the decisions on when to hit that splitting ball to a player on the run, when to hold it and keep it and play it sideways or play it backwards to relieve pressure. It's really easy to say that those passes are meaningless, but you're just wrong. Like they're very important when they're done correctly. You have to use the ball sometimes to take that pressure off of a team like Chile that is harassing you everywhere you go. The other thing that stood out to me last night, and this is something that we've talked about before when it comes to Paul Arriola, I think Corey Baird was pretty similar. 2 guys who I love their work rate. I love the work they do off the ball. They just don't give you enough in the final third. The final product is not where it needs to be. And that's the frustrating part about it, because you want to see them get rewarded for the work that they put in. It just doesn't happen consistently. And how many times do we see a ball from Michael Bradley over the top or splitting defenders, hitting them on the run, and then the final pass from them isn't there or the final chance isn't there? It's something that I hope they have it in them. I think we've seen it from Arriola at times. Baird is young, and he's still kind of, I think, learning how to play at this pace. But if you get that cutting-edge quality, I think you're talking about some different things with this team. And that's the situation that I have questions about how that looks going forward. And when you get back to the number one question coming into this one, of Christian Pulisic and where does he play? If Christian Pulisic is on the end of one of those balls from Bradley where it splits the defenders and Pulisic is in running at the back line in space, you feel a little bit better about it than if it's Corey Baird. However, you feel pretty good about Christian Pulisic when he gets on the end of a Jossie Zardes through ball after a pretty nice first touch, by the way. Zardes gets killed for his first touch, but go back and look at that. That's immaculate. That is just immaculate from Zardes to make the touch and turn and play Pulisic in, and he gets on the end of that. So what do you do to get a little more going forward, and that cutting edge going forward? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that yet. I do feel like I agree with Roldan. Like I feel like it's a different culture around the team. And not being in there, we don't know, but it just looks different. It feels different. Even in a game like last night where you're under pressure and you're dealing with adversity, it felt different than it did under Jurgen Klinsmann and Bruce Arena. You felt a little more secure, even as we're all kind of learning how this team's going to play in these situations. The players felt more secure. That's a good thing. I think the building blocks are happening. And now you go into a tournament where you need to get to the final, and you need to put yourself in a position to win it. And I feel like the team is in a good enough place to feel pretty good about the Gold Cup this summer. I'm looking forward to it. What do you think about Roldan's comments, John?
I like to hear, and it was a point that he also reemphasized in the mix zone. Pretty much anyone who asked him about the culture, he was absolutely positive about where things were heading. And you like to hear those kinds of things for a team that has only been together a couple of times, plus camp and what have you. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this continues to grow and evolve. And for me, I think that despite all of my negative comments in the first 16 minutes of the show, I think that the fact that you can grind out a result and get what you got last night up against a Chile is something that you can hang your hat on and sit there and put it on the wall and go, okay, let's take from this what we can and continue to go forward. And let me go back to Gyasi Zardes for a second. There were 4 touches, period, that created that goal. One of them was Ethan Horvath. 2 was the settle. 3 was the turn and the flick. And 4 was Pulisic putting it in the back of the net. When you can go from one end of the pitch to the other like that and have Gyasi Zardes do what he did, just absolutely bring it into the body, then turn, create, and go. Once again, that's something else that you can sit there and put on a wall and go, okay, we have people who can do this kind of thing. And I'm still trying to figure out where Gyasi Zardes is getting all the grief from. And I know that Nathan Pugh had a question, wants to know exactly what Zardes does. Saying he doesn't score enough, and wants to know, is he more of a false 9 to drop deeper for passing and link-up play, and he doesn't lead the line like an Altidore does? Nathan's not impressed. #WildPassWednesday.
If you're not impressed with what Zardes did to create the goal, there's nothing I can do for you, Nathan. But as a whole, he isn't producing at the same level of Josie Altidore. And it goes back to what I've said for years since I've started doing this stuff. Josie Altidore does not get the credit that he deserves for the U.S. men's national team. You can not like him in a Toronto shirt. You can boo him if you want and for some reason put all the blame on him for the team not qualifying. But look at the numbers. He's the best striker this team has had in this current generation. And you can put his numbers up against Brian McBride. You can put his numbers up against Eric Winalda. You can put his numbers up further back against Bruce Murray. He's the guy. He's been the guy. He's 28 years old. He's the guy who's going to play. When he's healthy, he's the guy. I think Gyasi Zardes has been better than he gets credit for, but Altidore is the better option. 100%. He's a different type of player than Altidore. I think the biggest thing for Gyasi that has been frustrating is, for some reason, Klinsmann and Arena both wanted to move him out wide, and he's not. I don't think he's a winger. I think he is a forward, but he's played everywhere so much that he does tend to. He doesn't lead the line like an Altidore does. I'll agree with you on that, Nathan. But I think Gyasi has a skill set that is useful. I just don't think he's the best striker that the U.S. has. I think it's Josie Altidore right now. And I think in the near future, it's going to be Josh Sargent. Now, when that happens, I don't know. Is there a place for Zardes? Yeah. I think he's the number 2 guy right now. I think he's ahead of Sargent right now with the national team, and he has to hold on to that. He has to produce in Columbus to hold on to that, and he has to produce when he gets opportunities with the national team. You can't discount what Gyasi Zardes has done in Major League Soccer. You can't rule that out and say, well, it doesn't mean anything. He's got 55 goals there. The 2 years where he has been at his best and he has played as more of a true forward, really the only year he played as a true 9 by himself was last year in Columbus in a Greg Berhalter system, and he scored 19 goals in 33 games. That's a pretty good return on it. He had 16 in 2014 with the LA Galaxy when Robbie Keane was the guy really leading the line. Zardes was a secondary option and took full advantage of it as he was coming into his own. Beyond that, it's been 6. It was 2 in 2017, the awful year where he lost his form, and Siggy Schmid played him as a right back, which was one of the more befuddling decisions I've ever seen. But Zardes wasn't playing well either. his rebirth in Columbus, 21 goals in 36 league matches there is pretty impressive. But I don't think he's the starter for this team. I think it's Josie Altidore when he's healthy, and then I think it is Josh Sargent in the long run. Nathan, I mean, is he more of a false nine? No, he's not. He's not that player. He's a complete forward in that he can drop, he can move, he can run off the ball. He does a lot of different things. I don't think he excels in anything, and that's what probably keeps him from being the number one option. I think he's a great forward in MLS. I think he works really hard. Go back to the one chance he had that, I mean, it was just effort from him reading the play, and he put it over the bar under pressure at the end of it, but he probably shouldn't have even had the chance. So I think Zardes gets too much stick, but no, he's not Josie Altidore. Some people think that's a good thing. Some people think that's a bad thing. Depends on what you think about our friend Josie. Let's take a break here. We'll get into more. We have comments as well from El Mataflo, and we'll get into that on the other side of the break. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Wall Pass Wednesday, soccer down here, March 27th. Let's get into the comments from our buddy El Mataflo. The USA just played two decent South American teams in difficult moments. Both are experiencing the back end of golden generations. Both are experiencing difficult transitions with good but very frustrating coaches. Flashes of good, lots of room for improvement. And you also have the Fuera Rueda and Largate Bolillo hashtags trending. Basically, managers out is what you're looking for here. Ecuador fans not happy. Chile fans not happy. Both of these games should have been better tests than they were, according to El Mataflo. Wondering how Long and Brooks would have played yesterday against the press. Thoughts? I think Aaron Long's the best center back in the U.S. system right now. And it's crazy that this is a player who came out of the draft. Portland didn't see anything in him. He went to Seattle Sounders 2. They didn't see anything in him. He goes to the Red Bulls 2 on a USL deal. Maybe his last shot. He becomes a USL Defender of the Year, moves into MLS, becomes an all-star, becomes a national team player. Shows you where the talent identification can be sometimes. And it's not like Portland and Seattle were bad teams at that time. They were winning MLS Cups around those times. So, they were pretty good. I think Long's the best guy, period. I think some of the halftime video, if you didn't get a chance to see that, of Greg Berhalter with Taylor Twellman in the film room looking at some different things. The way that Berhalter sees the game and wants his teams to play, and this was a video from the Ecuador match, which was a very different match than last night. But I think it gives you a hint at how important a guy like Aaron Long is to Berhalter's system. You need somebody athletic. You need somebody who can defend 1v1. You need someone who can cover a lot of ground. And you need someone who can play with the ball at their feet. Aaron Long can do all that. I think he is what we've learned out of these two games. I think Aaron Long is on the team sheet for Game 1 of the Gold Cup no matter what. I really think that's the case. Brooks, I'm a little more. I want to see a little more, but I agree. I think it's Long and Brooks as your best pairing. Omar Gonzalez, I just don't see it. I don't think he's there. I don't think he's at the same level as the rest. Miazga, I don't think he's ahead of Brooks or Long. I think if you're playing 4 in the back and 2 center backs, it's Long and Brooks. Those are your best options. And I agree. I think they would have been better against the press. I think we learned that Gonzalez is not that guy, and I think we learned that Miazga's still got some work to do.
So then is Lovitz your fourth one back there along with Adams, Brooks, and
No,
Long?
it depends on the system. It depends on who you're playing and what you're playing against teams that you're going to dominate. And this is the type of thinking that you need to really consider when you look at Atlanta United as well. Against teams that you're going to dominate, you can do different things than against teams that you know you're going to be playing in a deeper, lower block. Against a team that you're going to dominate possession, you can have Tim Ream in that role if you want, because he can play the center back component of it pretty well. If you're going to be in a team where you're going to be in a line of 4 a lot, I think he gets exposed on the left side, and I would run at him. I think you have to figure out, does Lovitz give you both if you want to be able to switch back and forth in a game? Does Greg Garza give you more if you want to have a true left back? And he was called in January, remember. Does a Jorge Villafana give you more? Is there somebody else? These are decisions that Berhalter has to make. But right now in the Gold Cup, where you're going to dominate possession a lot, I think you're going to see a lot of Tim Ream.
Then, and obviously we're looking at Bradley in the middle of it all. Bradley/Trapp, but I would lean more toward Bradley, yeah?
I think so. I mean, I think both will get their time. I think both are going to battle it out for those spots. Now, the question is, who is the guy when you get down to the nitty-gritty and you're going to face Mexico in a final? Who is that guy? I think right now it's Michael Bradley. The other thing about Berhalter's video with Twellman that I thought was really, really interesting, so he isolated against Ecuador how, the team has possession in the final third, but what you're looking at with the way they played in that game, and remember, Chile was a different type of opponent, different situations, but against Ecuador, where you're dominating possession, and you have Tyler Adams pinching inside as that right back / central midfielder. So what he wanted out of that, when you're in possession, he wanted his 2 center backs back, and he wanted a line of 3 in front of them. He wanted Bradley in the middle, he wanted Tyler Adams pinched in to the right of him, and he wanted Tim Ream pinched in to the left. That gives you 2 in the back, that gives you a line of 3 in front as a cover, as a shield. Now, he isolated a situation, and this is why I think Aaron Long is the guy going forward, because he isolated a situation where Adams got out of position, didn't keep that discipline of, we're going to protect these back 2 behind us. We're going to basically be a shield to keep the ball into the attacking zone, but also if it turns over, we can recover. Well, he got caught, and Ecuador had a chance to break out wide on the left. Aaron Long, in space, played it perfectly. Textbook. He didn't dive in. He didn't overcommit. He was very disciplined in delay, hold the play up as long as you can, get help, delay. It looks like nothing, but trust me, it's massive. When you get caught and you're going to get exposed, Sometimes that's your best play. Hold it up and get help. And Aaron Long did. And Aaron Long showed a composure there that, again, you wouldn't expect from a guy who was in the USL a couple of years ago. It's one of the most mind-boggling misses in talent ID that I've seen in a while. So Long's discipline there, I don't know if Gonzalez has that. I don't know if Brooks has that. I don't know if Miazga has that. I think Long does, and he's going to be an important piece. But keep that in mind in this shape. When you're in possession and when you're in the final third, you are thinking about transition if and when it happens. You have to have cover. And that was one of Berhalter's frustrations is that situation. Adams got caught. You didn't have your cover. Long bailed you out. You don't want to get bailed out. But he did talk about his center backs. He has to have confidence in them that if they're 2v2, if they're 1v1, if they are, even numbers, that they can get the job done. And I think Aaron Long is the one that I think he should have the most confidence in that role. So when you think about those things and what your defensive midfielder is going to do, it's not a traditional old-school defensive midfielder role. And I know this is something that everybody wants to rail on Michael Bradley about, and Will Trapp, to be honest, about they don't get stuck in, they don't get into these tackles, they don't do this, they don't do that. You have two guys on either side who are more of that for you. This is not the old-school Gennaro Gattuso. This is not Roy Keane. This is not play defensive midfielder by being intimidating and kicking people. This is, I want a soccer player in there. I want somebody who's comfortable on the ball. Now, if you get both, great. That's a great combination to have. But you want somebody who can be that metronome for the passing game. I think Bradley's that. I think Trapp's that. And it's just going to be who is playing better at that time. I'd say it's an open competition between the two, and you're in good shape with both. But then you take it to the next level, and then you look at what happened last night, where you're not controlling possession. You're getting dominated a bit. You're getting pressed, so you can't build anything out of the back. And you are working on things, so you're going to keep building out of the back, even against the pressure, because you have to work on it. In a game that meant something, you probably switch earlier. But you get into the second half, and you get more defensive, and you create a line of five. You bring in an extra center back. You have your wing backs sit deeper. You have two ball players in the middle of the field, in Bradley and Trapp. And then you have three up top, but your wingers can drop in and help. And you turn the game a little bit. And you started to look a little dangerous at times. And Chile didn't have a lot of answers for you. That's a really good progression for this stage of Greg Berhalter's run with the national team. That is probably the thing out of every one of his matches so far. The 2 games in the offseason and with the MLS players, the 2 games here, that ability to change your philosophy a bit in that moment, because you have to. And the players' response to it, really good. Really good. So you feel a little bit better about things. I think he's going to be able to figure these things out. The question is going to be, does he have the players to do what he wants to do? And that's what we're just going to have to wait and see. That was
Caleb
a very long-winded answer. Sorry.
No worries. No, I would rather, and that's why we have 2 hours plus sometimes stoppage time, because then we can flush these things out.
It's true.
But the thing is, I'd rather flush these things out instead of turning it into an 8-second soundbite. But Caleb Cook is along your line of thinking, although he says, it's not the greatest game, lots of talent missing for several reasons, but I loved watching Greg make tactical changes to get out of there with a draw.
Yeah, and Caleb, I know you're not a fan of Frank de Boer. We know it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly unfair to say that Greg making tactical changes and Frank de Boer does not make tactical changes, because we've talked about it these last 2 games. He's made a lot of tactical changes in the shape in match, and I think they've bettered the team. So please keep that in mind. I mean, in the last match, you went from the 3-4-3, which was a different version of the 3-4-3, to a 4-4-2, to a 4-2-3-1, all in the match. I believe without substitutions. The 4-2-3-1, you might have shifted into that with subs, but it can be done. And yeah, it's easier in a friendly when you have a lot of substitutions to change shape and do these things. But I don't think he was trying to get out of there with a draw. I think he was trying to find a way to win, honestly. I don't think he was playing the game for a draw and a friendly. I think he was trying to figure out, well, we can't do what we're doing with what we have. What can we do? He gets Trapp in there with Bradley, makes it a little bit easier to play out of trouble, and also with the way the shape changed, you were able to find more space. And Chile really struggled to respond. So that's good. That's what Frank DeBoer did in these last two games against Monterrey and against Philadelphia. He did make changes. Now, did it have the same effect? You got to draw. So, I mean, it kind of did. I want to see how it continues to develop for both of them. I think there's some parallel paths between the two, to be perfectly honest. I think you're seeing a lot of the same thought processes between both of them because they both want to dominate games via possession. They have different base shapes, but the idea is to control a game by controlling the ball. Now, you have to create the chances out of that, and both are struggling to create enough chances. We haven't seen Atlanta United in a match yet where they've been dominated in possession like Chile did to the U.S. That's a question that I think is a fair one about how Atlanta will respond to that. But it's interesting to watch these two parallel stories happen and the reactions to them. So I'm intrigued. Let's take a break here, and we'll get back into more Wall Pass Wednesday right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, March 27th, Wall Pass Wednesday. We're getting into your questions, your thoughts, your comments. Let's talk about Miguel Almirón's night. Whew.
Yikes.
Nasty, nasty challenge that saw Miguel Almirón red carded. How long did he actually play?
Was it like 6 minutes, 8 minutes, somewhere in there?
Somewhere in there. Old Swarthy says, I don't know what to think about Miguel's tackle, really. On the one hand, I've never seen him mess up a tackle that badly, but on the other hand, I've never seen him try to hurt someone on purpose. I don't think he was trying to hurt the player on purpose. I really don't. Not in a friendly and not, it wasn't like anything had built up over the game. I remember times where we've seen Miguel Almirón lose his cool, but not like that. I think it was a badly timed and executed challenge, and it was an absolute deserved red card, and
yes,
absolutely deserved the reaction it got from the Mexican players. It was horrendous, but I don't think he's trying to hurt anybody. I think it was just a very bad decision and badly executed. I think what we've seen of Miguel, you can kind of give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah, and that's how I'm looking at it. with all of these things, you're going, okay, friendly, he's behind you. You're going to try to do what you can to make sure that the opportunity doesn't turn into a goal scoring opportunity. But in Miguel's case, he decides to really go after him, and that was nasty. That's the only thing I can say. And that's and you look at the post tackle reaction in the card and everything, and I'd be just as hot too if my guy got stomped like that. So 6 or 8 minutes in, you're down 3-1 and you're trying to prevent something. I get it, but it was pretty nasty.
Yeah, it was horrendous. So, not the best international break for Miguel Almirón in that regard. It happens. I'll be very curious to see what the reaction in Newcastle is. They might like it. They might be happy about it.
Carl Segi,
go ahead.
What do people think?
Oh, yeah.
Our resident Geordie.
Yeah, I might want to explain that one because I forgot who he was in his connection to Newcastle. I was like, what? I did not know that he was the pulse of the audience. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Caleb Cook on Twitter. I agree with Total Soccer Show. I wasn't happy with the Gonzalez-Miazga pairing. Not sure why you'd put those two in there against Chile. If Greg wanted to throw Omar a bone, it should have been against Ecuador. Nice guy, but there's no reason for him to ever wear a Yanks kit again. Look, and you hear this about Bradley, you hear this about Altidore, you hear this about players that fans don't like. The last part of that, I have to completely disagree. I can give you reasons. If there's injuries and he's the best option on the day, if he finds his club form again, then he's going to wear a U.S. kit again, period. It's just that simple. Why you'd put those two in against Chile? To test them. I think it's that. I mean, what are you going to learn more from? Playing them against Ecuador, where they're not going to really have much to do, or playing them against Chile, where they're going to have a lot to do. I think it's the latter. I think now you have your question answered about Aaron Long is your number one choice. And I think Brooks is the best pairing for him. I think you learned that last night. I think that's a good thing. You weren't going to learn anything about him against Ecuador. So I think that's why you do these things. It's a game that the result doesn't matter. I think you are really going in just trying to learn things and test things out. And that's something Berhalter talked about a lot going into this camp was testing things, testing ideas, testing his philosophy and his tactics. And I think he learned a good bit. And that's what you want coming out of these. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm happier with it after Chile than I was after Ecuador. Ecuador was a game that did feel like the frustrating Atlanta United games we've seen this season, where you have a lot of possession and you're just not creating anything. This one, you created the same amount against a team that was making life more difficult for you, and I think you showed more in this one, even with guys like Gonzalez and Miazga on the field. I think you learned more about it, and if you learn by, hey, he's not the guy in that situation, that's development too. So I would agree. I think Omar Gonzalez is 4, 5, 6, 7 on the depth chart. I mean, you're talking about somewhere in that ballpark. He's not your starter, and if you're turning to him, you're missing pieces or you're testing things out. I think it's that simple.
For me, in these situations, there's only so much that you can learn by viewing someone in a practice situation. You're sitting there and it's like, okay, so you're running through cones and you're doing drills against your teammates. I think that you have to put players out there, regardless of a preconceived notion. It's like, okay, I have this thought about this guy, but until you see an individual out there going up against competition, you're not going to have a true sense of what that person can or can't do. And so do you put them in there in a game of meaning where they can sit there? It's like, all right, show me what you've got coming out of the blocks, or do you try to do something different? And I think that you have these questions going in for the national team. And I think that you're going to see guys that, you might raise an eyebrow. It's like, well, why is he in there doing X? It's so they can sit there and get a gauge for what that individual can or can't do in this system, and if they're going to stick around, or if they're not going to be a part of things going forward. No, I completely understood what the deal was with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he learned enough that Gonzalez and Miazga are just further down the depth chart. And you still were able to move pieces around and come out of there feeling pretty decent. So last night was productive for the national team. It was definitely a good exercise. Now you get 2 games. You get Jamaica in D.C. in June. Not sure what the second game is going to be just yet, but preparing for the Gold Cup, where you're going to be facing matches that you should dominate in the first round. And then you get into quarterfinal, semifinal, and final. And that's where you're going to have to show what you're all about. You're going to have 5 games till you get to a knockout game. 2 friendlies, 3 group games. You have to make those count and be able to, okay, you're going to play against a team like Ecuador that's going to sit in a low block. They're going to make life difficult for you. They're going to be passive, as Christian Roldan said. They're going to sit back. They're not going to come out. They're not going to open up. How do you break them down? How do you get goals in that situation to advance? Or if you face a team like Mexico that looks pretty explosive right now, it looks very difficult, very fluid. We've seen these types of things from Tata Martino before. How is the U.S. going to deal with that? Gonna have to wait and see. But I feel better about the Gold Cup after these 2 games. I do. I feel better about where the team is headed. Still need more progress, though, because it is an evolution. It truly is an evolution for this team, because you went from Klinsmann, where there was talk about things and there wasn't a great deal of execution, to Bruce Arena, who was putting a Band-Aid on it trying to get you to the World Cup, and there was no progression there, to another year of no progression with Dave Sarachan, giving guys time but not actually building for the future, because he didn't have the job, so he couldn't. To this, where you actually are building for the future and trying to change things. So, fingers crossed, but I think there were lots of learned lessons in these games. Let's take a break here. If you've got more questions on the U.S. national team or more comments, please throw them in on Twitter @SoccerDownHere. We're going to take a quick one, and we'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment, hour number 1 of Soccer Down Here. Lots of U.S. men's national team talk. 1-1 draw last night with Chile. One thing that came out in the broadcast, and we've talked about Christian Pulisic and where he plays, and he didn't make it to the 40th minute last night before an injury. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. You could definitely see him pull up, and hopefully it's a little more precautionary than anything. But Taylor Twellman mentioned that Pulisic told ESPN last year that he wanted to play as a 10. Now, the debate is, okay, should you play him as a 10, or should you play him out wide? I don't know if we really have any answers in that regard just yet. We've seen Sebastian Lletget as a 10 in these last couple of games. We've seen Corey Baird out wide on the right in these last two games, or the last game specifically. Jordan Morris, I don't know if we have an answer yet, because I still think there's more options out wide than there are as a 10. So it's probably better to play Pulisic centrally. But I don't know if we're further along in this question just yet.
No, because if you're mentioning names and your initial response is,
well, they haven't shown
three
it
times.
Yet. They just haven't shown it. So I'm not as high on Lletget in that role as others are. I think Corey Baird actually has a lot to bring to the table, but you have to see more in the final third. I think Jordan Morris out wide is not as effective as he is up top, but he still has the speed that can be a problem out wide for opponents. It just hasn't been consistent with the national team, and he didn't really look great in the Ecuador game there. I don't know. I think you're probably still better with Pulisic centrally right now.
For those in attacking positions, is there anybody that we haven't seen that you'd like to see?
I'm trying to think of who that would be at this stage.
Gooch, Novakovic, Safe, anybody?
Safe is definitely a possibility. Now, Safe would give you an interesting component out wide on the right in this shape because of his playmaking ability. And you think back to some of the opportunities that Morris and Baird had to deliver a better ball in the final third when things opened up, and man, I would have loved to have had Kenny Safe on the ball there. I think you have to consider it. You have to see what he does at Cincinnati in this first part of the season, but he would be on the list. Gooch, we just haven't really seen a ton of Gooch in that type of role. Before he was injured, you liked what you saw from him, but again, it was not really in a very organized tactical setup. You know what I mean? I mean, it was, okay, yeah. I like what he brings to the table as an individual, but can he play this role? I think Kenny Safe can. And I think Safe's ability on the ball, especially to pick out a pass, would change things a little bit. Right now, yeah, I would probably lean to that. If I'm in a must-win game tomorrow and I'm thinking about who to play on the right wing, it would be Kenny Safe.
And then what about at the back?
Oh, the back, right now I think it's in the way you want to play. It's Tim Ream, it's Aaron Long, it's John Brooks, and it's Tyler Adams.
Okay.
I think you're good with that, and I think it's Bradley in the middle, and Pulisic, and McKinney doesn't look like he's going to be available. I think that's not very likely. So you have to figure out who the 8's going to be, and you have to figure out if Roldan can be that. Didn't look great in it last night. We've seen him in those roles before, and he's looked good. Can he be that guy? Another one I think you really have to consider is Darlington Nagbe. I think Darlington Nagbe brings a ton to that position in the way that it looks like Berhalter wants it to be played. So I would lean, based off of last night's performance and based off what we've seen from Nagbe, I would lean to Nagbe in that role as the 8 and Pulisic as the 10. Left side, you're probably going Areola right now. I don't know if there's a better option at the moment. So if I'm in a Gold Cup final tomorrow against Mexico, I think that's what you're looking at is Ream, Long, Brooks, Adams, Bradley, Nagbe, Pulisic in the middle, Areola on the right, safe on the, or Areola on the left, safe on the right, and Josie Altidore up top.
Okay.
Assuming everybody's healthy and assuming McKinney is not. If McKinney's healthy, I think he's your 8.
Okay. Because I know that yesterday Nagbe had been broached as an idea, and I wanted to cycle back to that and see if him not being a part of the equation so far, you want to see him and you want to plug him into that lineup.
Yeah, I think you need to. I think you need to see it at this point because without McKinney, Roldan just struggled to read the game and affect it going forward. Now, here's your question, though, and against an opponent like that, is how do you want to approach it? Do you want to approach it with Roldan sitting deeper? Do you want to work with him position-wise and just know you're going to be under pressure, so you're going to have to sit more? Do you want another player like a Nagbe who can give you both, I think? I think Nagbe's better on the ball, not as good defensively as Roldan, but better defensively than he gets credit. I think he could be that guy. Or do you want to do what you did in the second half, where you played Trapp and Bradley together? Now, you changed the shape around it, and it worked, but do you want to go with that type of approach against New Mexico? That's the wild card that you don't really know yet where Berhalter wants to go in that game. I think against your average opponent, it's going to be what we talked about. You want to dominate possession. You want to control the game. Against New Mexico, I wonder if Berhalter really looks back at the way Chile played. And Chile and Mexico played differently, but the idea of it. Do you think back to some of the lessons you learned here and say, well, maybe we should do something different in this one? Because I don't think we're going to dominate it in the same way. I'm intrigued by those things, and that's really part of this process that we're not going to know until you're there. So Nagbe will be in the mix for the Gold Cup. I'd be shocked if he's not. I think Kenny Safe will be as well if he continues the way he's playing in Cincinnati. All right, hour number 2. We're going to kick it off with Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game. Well, see, you don't even know. Like, people don't know why you're reacting that way. You have to have a little patience. Have a little patience. I texted Mike Conti. I said, are you good for 10 o'clock? And did you watch the U.S. game last night? I know you're a busy man. And he said, yes, I watched them, and I have many hot takes. Spicy Mike Conti to kick off hour number 2. He has hot takes about the U.S., so let's see what those hot takes are, and we'll also get more of your hot takes or mild takes or cold takes on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. It's Wall Pass Wednesday. Thanks for being part of the conversation with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here. We've got some hot takes from Mike Conti to kick off hour number 2. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, guys?
I'm expecting hot takes. What are your hot takes?
Spicy.
My hot take is that if Jazzy Zardes brings that first touch from last night with him into Saturday, he's going to be a problem. I was really impressed by him. I know a lot of people are a little baffled and upset with the performance last night. Taylor Twellman, I thought, made a really good point, and in a way it made me think back to Atlanta United a little bit, that the U.S. men's national team last night was trying to experiment with some things, figure some things out, do some different things, and as a result, they were sloppy. That's what happens when, in the course of a match against a very good opponent, you try to figure some things out. It's not reasonable to expect that the U.S. men's national team is 2 or 3 goals better than a first-choice Chilean squad at this time. I mean, they're not there yet. They held on for a draw. I think that's a good result. I'm not angry about it. It's a friendly. It doesn't mean anything. Pulisic scored and got hurt. You're playing the final hour of that match without your best players. So I think everyone just kind of needs to take a deep breath. I thought there were some very good individual plays. Zardes really, really stood out to me. Really stood out. I thought Areola was making some things happen. I thought Corey Baird was making some things happen. Tim Ream had a shocker, but I thought got a little bit better as that match went on. So, I mean, all in all, it's a friendly in March of 2019 under a new manager who had his, 4th opportunity to coach them basically in a match. It's not going to look perfect, and I'm fine with that.
And the notion that 65th minute on, and overall you only had 30-something percent of the possession, but the fact that you're able to grind out a draw against the Chilean side, with everything going on around you, the way that you held on in that last 25 to 30 minutes.
I mean, that's showing a little bit of grit. I like that. I don't love the fact that Chile passed at 90%. I don't like the fact that they were getting in behind the back line more often than not, that the U.S. men's national team had set up. But again, it's a friendly in March, and you did what you needed to do to get out of there with a draw. If we're talking about this being a match in Copa America, then we're having a totally different discussion right now. I thought it was okay. Let's see where they go from here. And by the way, it sounds like Pulisic, the injury is not serious, which is fortunate. It sounds like they pulled him just for a precautionary reason, but that's big. I mean, you had your best player for only 30 minutes. Berhalter, as much as he's trying to work on some things and figure some things out and experiment and try to be flexible tactically, I also get the feeling he's trying to be as respectful as possible to the clubs from which these players are coming. That's what happens in a friendly in March. So I am absolutely going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt based on what I saw last night. I saw nothing alarming.
What do you think about the attendance in Houston?
There you go.
It got, honestly, it looked like it got a little better as the match went on. I am torn between, is this a ticket price issue? Is it playing on a weeknight issue? Is it playing a match that doesn't count issue? What's the problem here? Because we have the same problem in Orlando. And I keep coming back to ticket prices. And this is something that the three of us have talked about. I don't know who's setting the price. If it's the FA, if it's the host
it's
club.
The federation.
It's
the
okay.
Federation.
Well, then
no
the FA.
it, yeah.
All right. Well, then the FA needs to chill out on it, because right now, especially after the debacle of what happened 2 years ago, you're at a point where you really need to make national team matches accessible. You're not going to do that if you charge exorbitant prices for people to attend friendlies. I don't like that.
You want a headline that'll blow your mind?
Go ahead.
From The Guardian this morning, it is more expensive to watch the U.S. than world champions France. Why?
Well, that's ridiculous. Okay, that is ridiculous. And
you want something else that's ridiculous?
Go ahead.
So the average attendance for U.S. World Cup qualifiers in the 2002 cycle, so games played 2000, 2001, 31,158. For the 2018 cycle, so games played at the end of 16 and in 17, the attendance went from 31,158 to 22,636. But total revenue went from $7 million to more than $17.5 million, as the average ticket price went from $28.05 in the 2002 cycle, average ticket price, to $97.06.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
Now, that's qualifiers,
stupid.
but still.
Yeah, no. And look, here's what they're doing, okay? In 2002, how many soccer-specific stadiums did you have in this country other than Columbus in 2002? That's the thing. You're playing in NFL stadiums in 2002. In the last World Cup qualifying cycle, you have soccer-specific stadiums all over the place. And the FA, probably popped open an economics textbook and decided to do a study on supply and demand. And here we are right now. I think, watching the match last night, and this is a little thing that I probably should not have even been paying attention to, but the scrolling ad boards, the ad hoardings on the side of the pitch, I think I only saw an ad for Volkswagen. The rest of it was, USMNT.com and get your tickets for the U.S. women's national team against Mexico and Harrison, and just, a cycle of promos for the FA. Someone in sponsorship for the U.S. Soccer Federation is not doing their job right now. You need to be making more money off sponsorships so you don't price gouge your fans. And, I think some people last night when I was tweeting about this thought I was taking a shot on Houston. Absolutely not. It's not a shot on Houston at all. I thought the crowd ended up being pretty respectable by the time the first half ended. It's not an indictment of Houston. You've got to make these tickets more accessible right now. You don't have the luxury of just being able to snap your fingers and charge, three-digit prices for tickets all over a 20,000-seat stadium and then expect to sell them all. You're not that kind of team yet. You don't have those kinds of superstars. So there needs to be a wake-up call within the FA right now, because I think they're going after the wrong people for money.
Here's something to keep in mind, too. I think The Guardian brings up a point that I have not heard yet in this whole dilemma, and it goes back to what you just said about selling those ads and the look on TV. This is from the Guardian article. There is greater focus on filling stadiums in European countries where lucrative broadcast deals make matchday revenue less critical. Mm-hmm. On Monday, when France hosted Iceland, tickets ranged from the equivalent of $28 to $122 for a Euro 2020 qualifier featuring the world champions in Paris, the planet's joint most expensive city in the world. Okay, so let's talk about the TV side of it. You want to increase your TV revenues. Right now, yeah, I think European countries, they make most of their money from TV. The match day isn't as important. But why is the TV product so much better? Because you have full stadiums. When you're going to ESPN, Fox, whatever other partners you're looking at for a TV deal coming up after the 2022 World Cup cycle, if I'm one of those partners, I'm going to look at the 9,000 people you had in Arizona, the 15,000 in Orlando, and say, this is not a compelling product for me to broadcast. I'm not going to give you as much money. I think you need to fill these stadiums to make it a more compelling TV product.
I agree. However, is the national team package not bundled with MLS rights?
Yeah, but the thing that sells it is the national team rights. That's what most people will tell you. So I think both sides of it. And MLS needs to be in this conversation as well. You need to fill your venues, and there is an audience out there that wants to go to these games. I think that part is done worrying about. There are people who will buy the tickets. You have to make the tickets affordable. You have to make the tickets quality. You have to have a quality product. But you have to fill these venues, because if you are ESPN and you're looking to commit primetime TV spots, you don't want to do it with empty stadiums.
Yeah, no.
It's a terrible look.
It goes back to Atlanta United's mantra that unless you treat it like it's a big deal, it's not going to be a big deal. Can't treat a match at a half-empty stadium in Houston as a big deal if it doesn't look like a big deal. So I'm with you, Jason. I
can
think
trade
it all
off some
goes hand in hand.
short-term revenue. I think, and that's the way you have to think about it. You're looking at it as, okay, we have less numbers, and you have some smaller venues. That's true. We have fewer people in the stands, but we're making a whole lot more money right now. Is the way the Federation looks at it. But you're killing your next TV deal by not having a more compelling TV product, and that's where the big money is.
Yeah. Now, I think the other thing, too, this was not a Gold Cup match. This was not Copa America. This was not a qualifier for anything. This was a friendly. Friendlies are tricky. I do get that. But it was a friendly against a quality side. And I think that's a little more troublesome to me. I mean, Ecuador on a weeknight in Orlando is going to be tough, even if the tickets are cheap. Against Chile, it's probably a little bit of a different discussion. But it was a friendly. I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago when the U.S. men's national team was playing friendlies against Israel in Jacksonville, Florida, at what was at the time the old Gator Bowl, and drawing maybe 3,500, 4,000 people. So, I mean, we've still come a long way. But it's something that needs to be discussed. I'm glad we're discussing it here. In my opinion, the attendance issue last night did not overshadow what we saw on the pitch. I thought it was actually,
100%.
especially for the first 45 minutes, a really kind of fun, wide open, as Ian Dark put it, effervescent match. I was entertained. It obviously showed some very good things about where the U.S. men's national team is right now and some things that need work. That should not be overshadowed by the attendance that we've had over this international window, because there are much more pertinent things on the pitch to discuss than not being able to draw very well in Orlando and Houston.
And, I mean, your core audience is going to be there. You're always going to have your core showing up for these matches. If you're going to want to grow the game toward the casual fan and that next generation coming up, for me, it's make it affordable. And if you're having issues for one reason or another, find youth clubs and youth organizations and put the kids in the upper deck. And that way they can see what's going on. Even if it's a discounted or if it's a comp ticket, you're showing what's going on to that next generation and you're getting them hooked. But there's a disconnect in here somewhere.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like the FA is not going to want to concede that right now. And maybe it's just, a matter of getting the research in front of them to kind of prove to them that, look, what you're doing right now is not working. I think there's probably a little bit of an overvaluation right now from the U.S. Soccer Federation about where they are right now with these men's national team friendlies, drawing interest in the middle of the NCAA basketball tournament, right as the baseball season is ramping up. I mean, again, this is a tricky time to be having an international window right now, to be playing friendlies. So that's why I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I think it is a very valid conversation that we're having here, and I hope it's one that will be heard in New York or wherever the heck their home office is these days.
So looking ahead to the weekend, we get back into MLS play with Atlanta United. Columbus Crew's the opponent. I was a little happy with my Atlanta United hat on watching Jossie Zardes play a lot of minutes over this break.
Yeah.
I was happy to see Will Trapp come in the second half and play some minutes. So now that the national team time is done, that leaves Columbus in a little bit different situation as they get ready for Atlanta coming to town Saturday night.
And let me reiterate again, I thought Zardes was really, really good last night. Man of the match performance. But you're right, he did have to play a lot. Trapp, I guess he played about a half hour last night, maybe a little more.
Yeah, about 90 minutes in total between the two.
Yeah, but, I mean, still he played. So, I mean, the thing is, they're flying from Houston to Columbus, whereas you have Joseph flying from wherever they were to Atlanta, across the ocean. Miles and Andrew are flying long distances. Tito's got to fly across the country. So, even though Trapp and Zardes played a lot, I don't think Columbus necessarily has a disadvantage right now because they had players on international duty as well. I think Atlanta was just as affected. Look, I mean, Columbus looked really bad against Philadelphia without two key players. I would not expect Columbus to match up favorably against anyone when really three key players. When you extract Zardes, Trapp, and Stephan out of that group, they're going to struggle. And that's the way they looked last week against Philadelphia. I'm going to be curious to see what Atlanta United is going to look like from an availability standpoint. Watching Zardes play last night, you're hoping, boy, you really want Miles Robinson available as someone that can deal with him. That might be a really tough ask just from a travel standpoint. I don't know if Miles is even back in Atlanta yet. I don't know if he's coming back today or what the deal is there. So that would be a concern. Pitti, obviously, huge question mark, huge concern as to what his status is. We still do not really have an update yet from the club. I guess we'll get one today on what, if anything, happened to him last weekend against Venezuela. Joseph, I did not realize Venezuela had another fixture after Argentina, but apparently they did, and he scored against Catalonia. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are they recognized by FIFA?
No.
Anyhow, he still played. And then, you look at your depth guys, not to mention Barco, he played for the Argentina U20s. I just don't know what Atlanta United's 18 is going to look like. Sounds like Escobar might be an option, but is he 90 minutes match fit for MLS right now? He played 60 against Charlotte last week. Is he 90 minutes ready? You hope that he is. So a lot of mystery for both clubs, and I'm looking forward to this match. I've heard a couple people on our radio station talk about how Columbus has been a bogey team for Atlanta United. That's really not true at all. Atlanta United's never lost to them. Lost to them.
I don't know where that stuff starts, but they've never beaten Atlanta United.
No, I think a lot of people remember the playoff game.
0-0, and they won in a penalty shootout.
Right, went to penalties. It was not a loss. So I don't know. I think Atlanta United, the one thing that also now is coming into play unbelievably, but believably, if you've traveled with this team in March, is conditions. Sounds like it's going to be 30 degrees and raining. And that's just one more bad break for this club. I feel like Atlanta United right now has been the Charlie Brown of MLS, where just nothing really has gone right for them. A lot of things out of their control, and now you have conditions on top of it. But the good thing is that pitch at MAPFRE is probably the best in MLS, and it probably won't be that big a deal. So I don't know. That's a long, rambling answer, and it wasn't really an answer, Jason and John. I apologize. I really don't know what to expect because I don't know what Atlanta United's 18 will look like. I have a better idea on Columbus, but still not even entirely sure about them.
All right. So then what else has been on the mind of Mike Conti since we last spoke? Doesn't matter necessarily the topic or anything, but what else? What's bugging Mike?
Have you guys gotten into the Almirón foul from last night?
A little bit. What'd you think?
Oof. What was he doing?
Clumsy.
Miggy, that's not the Miguel Almirón that I know. I was shocked by that. Really stunned. And we could probably have, I guess, a slight argument on did he mean to do it? Did he not mean to do it? It happened. Leads me to wonder if there's going to be a ban. I mean, it was a pretty violent foul. And I was very, very shocked by that. Very shocked.
With it being in a friendly, there's really little risk for anything further than that. It didn't get quite to that level, so it's bad. I mean, it looks bad. I don't think there was the intent to injure, though. Knowing what we know of Miguel Almirón, I think it was clumsy and sloppy more than to hurt somebody.
To prove malice is a very difficult thing, but boy, I'm surprised he did that. And as we have discussed on game broadcast before, Jason, that intent doesn't matter when the referee's reaching for his pocket. I thought that was absolutely correctly adjudicated to be a straight red. Touched off a melee. Just very surprising. Very, very surprising and out of character. But Mexico, boy, oh boy, they look good. That's two really good results for them in two matches under Tata Martino. Again, friendlies. But seeing that incident last night where the Paraguayan manager accidentally kicked the ball off his head and seeing Tata, dust himself off and put his glasses back on, it kind of made me miss Tata a little bit because just seeing that look on his face, that smile reminded me of some very happy times. And I'm glad to see things are going well for him right now in Mexico. I know that media will turn on him quickly if things start to go sour. But so far, the early indications are very, very good for him.
All right, Mike, we've got stoppage time later today, 2 o'clock, presented by Aaron's over at the studios at Colony Square. We'll be getting into Atlanta and Columbus and getting everybody ready for that. What else, looking ahead to this weekend in MLS, is there anything else that you're looking forward to getting back into league play?
Well, thinking of the clubs that have been most affected by losing guys on call-ups, it's kind of ironic that Columbus and Atlanta are probably right at the top of the list and they're playing each other. It's just kind of looking at the fixtures. I'll be curious to see DC United at Orlando coming off a really good result against Red Bulls. Can they string together something now? That'll be on Sunday. LA Galaxy and Portland. Portland can't score a goal right now. That's a very important match for Portland as they try to stay above water in the West at this early juncture. SKC Montreal. That kind of stands out on Saturday, just looking at the fixtures here. SKC has played really, really well. They're still alive in CONCACAF. Montreal's been inconsistent, but they've been explosive. So I think there are a couple really fun matches coming up this weekend. Red Bull, if you look at the Eastern Conference standings right now, Red Bulls, you would think they'd probably be able to take care of Chicago. DC Orlando, that's a big one. DC, are they for real? Are we really going to start looking at them as the power team in the East that everyone's chasing, or is Orlando going to be able to string something together? So some good matches. Toronto, New York City. New York City has been anemic to start the season. Toronto has a good opportunity at home. That'll be Friday night, I think, right?
It is, and both have big additions, too. I want to see if they see the field on Friday night.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of intrigue. I think, looking at the list of fixtures, Columbus-Atlanta might be the best one of all this weekend, just because, Atlanta, I don't want to say they're desperate, but Atlanta United obviously is very motivated to get back on track. Columbus, with an explainable performance against Philadelphia, looking to regain some momentum at home where conditions will be a factor. That probably is at the top of the list as far as two quality clubs playing each other this weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Atlanta-Columbus on stoppage time this afternoon. Mike, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, take it easy.
Be good.
Will do. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll get into some fantasy tips for the upcoming weekend from the commissioner, Jason Wright, of the Jason Wright Agency. Get you ready for fantasy MLS on the weekend. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm going to let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Wednesday edition. Wall Pass Wednesday. Get you ready for Fantasy MLS this weekend. You can still join the Soccer Down Here Open League presented by Jason Wright of the Jason Wright Agency. Go to Jason Wright, AGEN on Twitter and check the pinned post there on how to join. Also on Facebook, Jason Wright Agency. Look it up. And get into the league. Top performers for Week 4, which was kind of an awkward week because you only had 5 games. You had to be kind of savvy, I think, to have a good week. Five Stripes United was very savvy. They had 83 points. They moved from 45th to 18th. And they had a top 10 week in all of MLS fantasy. Yeet FC, 75 points. They moved up from 48th to 16th. That's 2 pretty big moves in a weird week. In the Open League, your standings. Number 1, soccer-specific fantasy team. Number 2, Joseph better than CR7. Number 3, and this is the Commish's favorite team name, and more importantly, the Commish's wife's favorite team name because she's an English teacher. Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma. That's a great team name.
Winner.
I enjoy it. By the way, the top 10 are all within 40 points, so it's really tight early on in the standings.
We are?
In the Pro Rel League. That's what the commissioner said.
Yeah, 41 points. I'll be darned.
They're within about 40 points.
Well, I'm 10th. That's why I was doing the math.
There you go. You should have the numbers in front of you. I'm reading the update. So
well,
in
I do
the
now.
Relax. In the Pro Rel League, also brought to you by Jason Wright. Number 1 in the league, Port City FC, undefeated. Black Star FC is going to try to pull the upset on Port City this week. Number 2, 3-1-0, 11 Fun Guys. That might be my new favorite team name.
Fun
Number
Guys?
3, soccer-specific fantasy team, 3-0-1. Remember this week, the games start Friday with that NYC Toronto game. 9 games on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. You're going to have, and Jason mentions the international break. This always comes up in this situation. Players who are away on the international break are not unavailable this week necessarily. This is where it's tricky because you have to figure out, okay, how much did a guy like, trying to think of a good decision here. Let's just go with the Columbus guys. Let's go with Will Trapp. How many minutes did Will Trapp play? Around 90 or so in 2 games. Is he going to play for Columbus this weekend? I would say yes, because I think he's that important to it.
Yeah.
Jossie Zardes. He played 2 games. Is he going to play? I'd say it's less likely than Will Trapp because they have Patrick Mullins there. They don't really have a replacement for Will Trapp in the way that they play. Doesn't mean that Zardes is not going to play. I think maybe he might come off the bench. I think Trapp plays. But we don't know. And you might not know until the coaches speak to the media Thursday, Friday this week. So the international break is tricky for those games during the break. It's trickier at times in this stage. It's not a guarantee that these guys don't play. So you really need to be on top of it this week. And you might need to look at having some additional options on the bench for guys who can slot in if you need to make a last-minute change. Lineups get posted an hour before kick. Be on the lookout for guys that you're wondering about. This is where I think the managers who are zeroed in and really paying attention and making last-minute moves can benefit in a big way, because these guys are back. But are they going to play 90? Are they going to play 60? Are they going to come off the bench? What are they going to do? You might not know until an hour before kick if they're going to be in the 18 or not. Let's run through the schedule real quick. It's Toronto and NYC in Toronto at BMO Field, Friday night, 8 o'clock kick. You could get a debut for Alejandro Pozuelo. I don't know if you're going to get a debut for Hebert, the new forward for NYC. NYC, I don't know where they stand attacking-wise at this moment. And it might take them a while for them to figure that out. Toronto, if Pozuelo comes in, and he's been playing regularly in Belgium, he's in good form. He's not going to need time to get fit. He's kind of a wild card. If he comes in and hits the ground running, great. And then you have the question about Michael Bradley in Toronto. Is he going to be in the lineup straight away? I don't know. Josie came off the bench in the last game. Is he ready to give you 90? I don't know. So a lot of questions about the Friday night game. Saturday it gets started with Chicago hosting the New York Red Bulls. With the Red Bulls, you have a question about Kamar Lawrence. He's played on the international break. He hadn't been playing for the teams. He get back into the team for their match this weekend. Maybe. We'll have to see. Connor Lade, injured in the last one. Is he going to be ready to go? Chris Armas has been very cagey about his recovery. Chicago, there was a rumor going around about Nemanja Nikolic on the trading block. We'll have to see what happens with that. So you might want to look at CJ Sapong as an option for the Fire in this one. New England and Minnesota, 2 o'clock on Saturday. Your New England update with all of the craziness of the Brad Friedel regime. You had Jeff Lemieux, who is a senior staff writer and editor for the New England Revolution website, the official website. So he's part of the club. He tweeted that Brad Friedel and staff had a closed-door meeting with players this morning, this is yesterday, regarding the work rate versus FC Cincinnati. Quote, "We had to address it. It's never nice meetings. Now that we've said our piece as a staff, we have to look forward in a positive way to Minnesota." What's the reaction going to be from this group of players? That's my biggest question is, sounds like they got lectured. Are they going to respond positively to that? Are they going to play for their jobs? Are they going to shut down? Don't know. I would be wary of New England players in the lineup this week. Minnesota, how are they going to be coming back off the break? Darwin Quintero should be fresh. I like Minnesota's attack in that one a lot, even on the road. I like Minnesota in that game. Sporting Kansas City hosting Montreal. Your big one is Nacho Piatti is uncertain, very doubtful is the quote that I have seen. I would stay away from Nacho Piatti on the road in Kansas City, maybe anyway, but especially with an injury concern. So that's your big story in that one as we're on Wednesday as you get ready for that game Saturday afternoon. San Jose hosting LAFC. San Jose has really wilted in matches as they've gone on this season, so maybe LAFC to rack up some goals late in it. You want to think about guys who might be in that. Carlos Vela did not play for Mexico, so Vela would be fresh coming into this. He seems like a good play against the Quakes. Cincinnati back at home hosting Philadelphia. I've mentioned Kenny Safe a bunch of times. I think he's a pretty good play in this one. I don't know what to think about Philly after their big win against Columbus. Was it because of who Columbus was missing, or was it Philadelphia starting to figure things out? They will get Marco Fabian back. And does he go straight back into the lineup? Yes, Fabian. Yes.
Fabian.
Columbus, Atlanta, we've talked a lot about it. We'll talk more about it. In terms of a fantasy perspective, that's a really tough one to call. Really tough one. Tito Villalba has done well against Columbus, but he hasn't been playing. Joseph, off to a good start. Gressel, off to a good start. For Columbus, Zardes has been good in league play, but how fit is he going to be for that? A lot of questions from a fantasy perspective in the Columbus-Atlanta game. Colorado-Houston in Colorado is the 9 o'clock Saturday night game. I don't know what to think about that one from a fantasy perspective. Colorado's still an enigma. Houston on the road hasn't been good historically. I generally like Albert Ellis and Mauro Manotas. I don't know if I like them in this one. Real Salt Lake hosting Dallas, another 9 o'clock Saturday night game. Dallas with a lot of young guys, probably good prices on these guys as well. So you might want to keep that in mind as you look at the Dallas squad. Real Salt Lake, Corey Baird coming off of a lot of minutes last night. Albert
Bond
Rusnak.
villain.
Yeah, and he would probably be your best option for Real Salt Lake because Rusnak's coming back off international duty too, and you have to wonder how much he's going to have in the tank. Late night Saturday, Vancouver hosting Seattle. Seattle's been flying. Jordan Morris didn't play as much last night. Played a lot in the first game. Is he going to be able to keep doing what he's been doing? Nicolas Ladero was lighting it up for Uruguay on international duty over in Asia. That's a tough trip back. How's he going to be for that one? Victor Rodriguez could be a good play for Seattle. Vancouver, I just don't know. I got nothing when it comes to the Whitecaps right now. I would avoid them in this one big time. And your two games on Sunday, and this is where you might want to have some outs in your lineup. You might want to, especially when you get into these Sunday games, you might want to really take a look and make sure you've got options for other guys in these teams if you're thinking about it. Orlando and D.C. Paul Arriola would be your big question for D.C. I kind of like Wayne Rooney against Orlando's defense.
Agreed.
I do. But Orlando looked really good defensively against the Red Bulls. So can they continue that? I don't know. Luciano Acosta and Rooney in this one. I kind of like both of those guys. And Galaxy hosting Portland in the late night one. Haven't heard an update on Zlatan. Who knows? We'll maybe get one in the next couple of days. Portland has been very bad across the board.
Yes.
Very, very bad. They've given up a lot of goals. If Zlatan's in the lineup, you'd feel pretty good about playing him. If he's not, you still might want to look for an LA Galaxy attacker. Maybe a Chris Pontius. That might be a cheap play that actually works out pretty well. I might have him in my team regardless as a backup plan.
Yeah,
so,
I've got Alvarez in my team regardless.
Yeah, and we'll see if he gets the start here. Portland's just been so bad defensively. I think you want to look at Galaxy scoring options. So there's your quick Wednesday fantasy update. Thanks to Jason Wright for sponsoring the league and organizing everything. You can still join Jason Wright, AGEN, on Twitter, Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. All your instructions on how to join and get in. There will be some prizes along the way as well. So this is a tough one. This is just the international break is more complicated at the end of it. You knew guys weren't going to be available last week. Now they might be. They might not be. How effective will they be? It's a lot of coin flipping and figuring things out. Really pay attention to your media availability from coaches to see if you get any nuggets on how much guys are going to play this weekend. Let's take a break here. We've got some Wall Pass Wednesday stuff to get to in the next segment, and we'll do that right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here. Wall Pass Wednesday. We have an International Champions Cup schedule for the games in the United States. And, John, we've got a match that is pretty close to Atlanta.
Pew, 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 pew. I guess I should have hit that horn or something. Arsenal and Roma in Charlotte on the 20th of July. So set your calendars accordingly. Yeah, and I want to know what the attendance is going to be like at B of A, and with what Greg Tepper's trying to do and bringing the MLS there, I want to see what the support's going to be like for a match like this. I think it's going to be a fun one. And Nick Alifi did make the point in the break that if you're not following them on Twitter, Roma, they have one of the most on fire Twitter accounts that you could come up with that's attached to a team. So that's Arsenal and Roma in Charlotte, July 20th. Set your calendars accordingly.
What else? What other matchups in the ICC jumped out to you around the country?
I like Roma and Chivas in Bridgeview on the 16th of July. I like that one. But before Arsenal and Roma in Charlotte, they're in Carson at the stadium formerly known as a bunch of different things. So now it is Dignity Health Sports Park, where the LA Galaxy and the Carson Chargers play. So Arsenal and Bayern on the 17th, and then Arsenal has to fly across the country to take on Roma on the 20th. And then we mentioned Houston in the segment with Mike, and how 18,000 showed up last night for the friendly with the men's national team in NRG Stadium. Bayern and Real Madrid also on the 20th. There are 4 matches on the 20th, one in Singapore, one at Levi's, one in Charlotte, and one in Houston. The Houston match in NRG, Bayern and Real Madrid.
That should do really well. I think Real Madrid will draw really well in Houston. Then they go to play Arsenal in Landover, Maryland at FedEx Field. I think that's another big crowd.
Yeah. Real and Arsenal there. And you look at Globe Life Park in Arlington, because they're trying to think for things for Globe Life to do, since I think the Rangers are moving into a new facility. You got Chivas and Atletico Madrid on the 23rd.
That'll do well. That'll be a good one. Is there anything like we've seen with the games at the Big House? Is there a matchup like that one?
Ooh.
Doesn't look like it.
No, I mean, if it's going to be one, I would think by default it's going to be the game in Houston, which would be, I think it's I'm trying to think of which one of these has the largest capacity. And it might be NRG. Actually, no, FedEx Field has the largest capacity with Real Madrid and Arsenal. I mean, they've trimmed it down, but it's in the 80s at FedEx. And so now, of course, I'm going to sit here and figure out how many people can fit into FedEx Field these days, because they've contracted some seats when Daniel Snyder wanted everything to be the largest ever. Right now, it's got a capacity of 82 after a couple of trim downs. So trimmed down to 79, as little as 79, because it could have seated just under 92,000 about a decade ago, and now it's down to 82,000. So that would be your largest opportunity for a capacity crowd.
See, here's a counterpoint to this. Michael Head says, not interested in these international friendlies. They are not true measures of the teams as the results do not matter. Who buys these tickets? And I've seen this a lot when it comes to International Champions Cup, and I've always kind of wondered, all right, where's the bubble on this? You know, like, it's one thing if you are a lifelong Liverpool fan and you've grown up in, you know, the South, and you've never had a chance to go to Liverpool, but it was the team you adopted, and you've watched them for years, and they're playing in Charlotte, you're going to go. I think you're going to go, and you're going to go to that.
Yep.
But then when they come back a year later, 2 years later, do you go again? And I think it depends on whatever the story is around that team. So, you know, if they've had a big signing, and that signing might make their debut in this one, okay, that's going to draw. The Chivas games are interesting, and this is the first time Chivas has been in the ICC. You have a huge Chivas fan base in the United States. They don't get to see Chivas in league play. So these games are appealing to that fan base, and they consume Chivas content, you know, on a regular. I think the European teams, you have some of these have big fan bases, but then some, that's what's interesting to me is a team like Roma. Obviously, you have some American ownership. You want to make Roma a brand in the United States. Are they achieving that? Does coming in the ICC, playing these games, do you bring more money into the club? Because we know at the end of the day, that's the number one goal here out of these games is you want to bring money into the club. You want to prepare for the upcoming season. You want to train, you know, in great facilities and play some friendlies and get some tests and all that. But are you bringing money into the club? Are you growing the brand of the club? It's easy for Real Madrid to show up and draw 50, 60, 70,000 fans in the United States. It's easy for Manchester United to do that. I think it's easy for Arsenal to do that. Maybe not quite to that scale. But what about Roma? What about Inter?
Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, Atleti's a really good one because, I mean, they're big boys in Spain, but are they in the United States? Now, if you're a fan of Atletico Madrid and you don't get to see them as often, you're going to be pretty excited about that. You're going to travel for it. I'm by default, I'm with Michael. I don't get into these games as much. When they're on in the summer, I'll watch it if there's nothing else on, but there hasn't been one that I've been like, I've got to go drive 3 hours to go see this.
No.
I haven't had that. When you've had the friendlies here, yeah, I'll go because I'm interested and it's local and cool. It's a day out at the stadium to go see a game. But yeah, the friendlies are not as appealing to me. It's the same with the national team. I mean, I'm not as excited about going to see a national team friendly unless there's something I haven't had a chance to see. So, you know, if Argentina and Messi was playing in Nashville or Charlotte, or hopefully he'd play in Atlanta, I'm down. I'm going to go see that because I've never had a chance to see the Argentine national team in person. I didn't get a chance to go to Copa America Centenario. I would go to that. But if it's, you know, whatever, playing in, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours away, I'm not as interested. And I might not watch. That's what's weird about these. And I think it's about either a club with a huge fan base where you can drop them in, they're going to draw, or there's a compelling story, a big transfer saga, a team on the rise, something about it, because these tickets are selling. Now, you saw some crowds last year in some of those not as appealing games, but the crowds didn't look that great. That's where I wonder about the long term of the ICC. I think it's worked really well, and clubs are wanting to be part of it, so something's going right. But how long does this type of thing work? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, and for me, what Charlie Stolitano and his group have done to add to the ICC. I mean, the women's tournament, he's had to turn teams away. And for me, I'm looking at the upside of the women's tournament and what the North Carolina Courage can do as the returning champ in this. And then what he's done with the youth side of things. So there are a lot of these offshoots that have happened from what we've started here with the ICC that I'm looking at as storylines and engagement going forward. I mean, Arsenal's playing 3 matches in the States as a part of the 2019 fixtures of the ICC. There's one team that's involved that's only playing in Singapore and Nanjing, China for a certain reason. And, with Juventus involved, that when Juventus goes into these other markets like Singapore and China, that place is going to be absolutely sold out. National Stadium, you're going up against Tottenham in Singapore. You're going up against Inter in Nanjing. Those joints are going to be sold out. And it's about expanding that brand in some cases and trying to figure out where your fans are in others. I mean, am I going to go to Charlotte unless I'm covering it? The answer is no. I'll watch it on TV because, like you said, if it's there, it's intriguing to me. But it's not to the point to where I'm going to dive in and it's grab a flight. I mean, think if you're an Arsenal fan in all of this. Arsenal, to me, might be overexposing themselves in this go-around because I understand West Coast, East Coast, but you're going Carson, California, Charlotte, and then you're going to D.C. So you've got 3 matches in the ICC domestically. And I'm wondering because Arsenal fans are going to have to make a choice. Which one do I go to? West Coast fans go to Carson. East Coast fans, you're going to have to choose unless you're going to drive from one to the other. So for me, Arsenal might be an interesting test case this time around because they're in 3 matches here in the States.
Yeah, I want to see what the long-term future of this is. I think Stilitano and Relevant Sports and everything with this tournament, they capitalized on teams coming to do friendlies, but no real organization around it. And now they're providing more to clubs to do it. Makes it easy. You sign up for the ICC, you're going to get 2, 3, 4 games, whatever you want, and they're going to be booked for you. You don't have to do anything. You just show up. And if you have a women's program, you have the opportunity to be in the ICC women's tournament. And if you want to bring your youth kids over to play, academy kids to come over to play, you have the Futures tournament where you can get that as well. So you can get a lot of one-stop shopping. Makes it easy for these big clubs to do this. That's great. I think some of the rotation of the clubs maybe needs to broaden out a little bit. Some of the rotation to the locations needs to broaden out a little bit. If Manchester United comes to the States every year, it's not as special. You can't do the Real Madrid-Barcelona game in Miami every year because then it doesn't mean as much. That type of stuff. You need to rotate a little bit more. And adding Singapore, adding Australia, I think had some games last year, adding some more locations is a really big part of that. So we'll talk more about the ICC as we get closer to it, but Charlotte is your closest game, Arsenal and Roma here in the South. Let's take our final break. More Wall Pass Wednesday right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, Soccer Down here, March 27th. Getting back into the normal swing of things now that the international break is over. I feel better about the U.S. men's national team after these two games. I feel a lot better after the second one, even though you didn't get the win there. I think you learned more about it. So we'll see how we get ready for the Gold Cup. The game against Jamaica, the Washington Post, Stephen Goff, has that one out there about Jamaica on June 5th from Audi Field ahead of the Gold Cup. There's supposed to be one more match ahead of the Gold Cup. We'll see what happens there. Tonight, you get the CONCACAF Nations League draw from Vegas, from the Chelsea in Vegas. We'll see who the U.S. is drawn with in the Nations League. See what potential CONCACAF Nations League matches the U.S. will be playing in the fall in the September and October and possibly November international windows as they try to win the first ever CONCACAF Nations League. The semis and the final will be next year. I want to see what the League B and League C end up looking like too. I enjoy seeing some of these matchups. I think this is a good thing for CONCACAF, so I'm hopeful that it all works out. We did have a question on a Wall Pass Wednesday timeline about Tim Ream, and it was addressed to both us and Mike Conti when he was on with us. Mike's answered on Twitter. Question was about Tim Ream. How is he our first choice left back for the U.S. men's national team? He's had horrible moments consistently in each of his last 3 games. Generally happy with the initial's progress. The team's initial progress under Berhalter. Gold Cup will be big, and that's from Chris Kilroy. I think we covered it, but Ream, for me, if you're going to play the hybrid kind of back line, he's your easiest one to play on the left side because he can be a left back, he can be a left center back, he can go back and forth between the two, he has the experience. He's your versatile guy there. I don't think he's the best left center back you have, and I don't think he's the best left back you have. But if you're going to be bouncing between the two, he might be your best guy to play both.
And yeah, so I want to see what that looks like with Tim Ream, because I know you see the consistency there, and then there's always that one moment that you attach to him, and people are gravitating toward that one moment each and every time out.
Well, I mean, usually it's a moment that you can't help.
It does turn into something.
To. It's a very, very bad moment, and that's why people are talking about it. One more from Bartimus Prime. Someone tell me why Bradley is a centerpiece of this team beyond the 2019 Gold Cup. He walked/slowly jogged most of the match and didn't seem to help shield the back line, given the havoc Chile created in our penalty area. The reason why? Let's look at the numbers from Opta. Completed 57 of 63 passes, 91%. Led the team with 4 tackles. A lot of passes that opened things up. That's why. You're not asking him in that role to be a destroyer, number 6. He is helping shield the back line with his positioning more than anything. And, I mean, it's something you notice, I think, with older players. They don't have to run as much. They position themselves well by walking, slowly jogging into position to where they're not scrambling. And it sometimes gives you the impression that, they're not really even going full strength. But they're positioned correctly so they don't have to. And Bradley knows his body. Right now in that role, it's Bradley and Will Trapp because you need a number 6 in this system to be able to complete 91% of your passes, some long, some short, really set the pace for the team in possession, and you need them to be tactically responsible, shielding that back line. I think he did a better job than Bart did in doing that. I think the havoc in the penalty area is not Bradley. The havoc in the penalty area is a little more on Gonzalez, a little more on the outside as well, which Corey Baird got caught a couple times. Paul Arriola sometimes gets caught. with guys overloading that system. I think Chile puts you under pressure that you hadn't seen. I didn't think as much of it was coming straight down the gut through Bradley. I think he needed a little more help from Roldan, who was inconsistent as well. It's a different mindset under Berhalter with that position. You're not asking them to do a lot of the things that I think people are expecting that position to do. I think he's doing what his manager wants him to do. So I think it works. One more, Kefsey replying about International Champions Cup, and this goes back to Michael Head's question about who's buying these tickets. Kefsey immediately told a friend from Rome, Georgia, who's an Arsenal fan, hey, Arsenal and Roma are playing in Charlotte. We're going to go. Kefsey's a Roma fan. So those are the situations where the ICC is really appealing. Glad to get back into league play. Glad tomorrow to turn the page and look at Atlanta Columbus. Look at the rest of the games around the East and the Western Conferences. Look at some USL Championship. And we'll get in tomorrow to USL League One. Their kickoff is Friday night in Statesboro, Georgia. John's going to be there. John will be tweeting.
Correct.
Keep your phone charged up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pictures. Be very
groundbreaking later this afternoon.
Yes. John's actually headed to Statesboro right about now to be there for a groundbreaking. Are you taking a shovel? Because I saw that they were requesting people to BYOS, bring your own shovel.
No, I will not be. I will not be BYOSing. I will leave that to others.
Okay.
But I think it's 5:30. I think is when the shovel ceremony is supposed to start, and it's a very cool moment, not just for Statesboro, Georgia, not just for Bullock County, not just for Tormenta FC, not just for League One, but it's a cool moment for me for soccer in the SDH footprint and in the United States. When you're seeing things like this happen in places like Statesboro, Georgia, it's been really cool for us to see the progression of Tormenta from where they've been to where they are. And there's going to be some announcements that go along with the BYOSing later this afternoon, in addition to the complex and all that other stuff. But League One starts in 2 days' time, or two and a half days' time. And so, I'll be down there starting later this afternoon all the way through the match on Friday night. And so we'll have Statesboro influence from tomorrow on.
We'll talk about all the importance of that tomorrow. 9 o'clock stoppage time later today on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. 2 o'clock you can watch. Send in some questions ahead of time. Send in some questions during the show. We'll get heavy into Atlanta and Columbus and start looking ahead. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha tormenta, y'all.